Alright guys, so what we're going to start out with is the barrel part. So I'm going to go ahead and take my electrical tape off that kept all the junk out of my barrel in the hunting season. These barrels don't need to be really torqued on, but I use a screwdriver actually, and actually fits perfectly in the muzzle brake ports, so I don't have to worry about bending the edges or anything on them. So you'll see here I do have a little bit of corrosion here. And what I'll do next is take the bolt right out. And so the little applicator goes in, and you'll see once I squeeze it, it comes out and drips, and it does foam up and expand. So it's foamed up pretty good there actually, so I'm just going to let that sit and work its way to the bottom of the barrel. I'm going to use my shoes to show you guys what I was talking about with taking apart your bolt in the field. And you may need to take your bolt apart in the field if you get a bunch of moisture in it, if you guys get really rained on. I'm not going to look real graceful here, but we'll give it a go. So you can see I put my shoelace in between the two kind of notches there. I'm going to pull it back. This is spring loaded. I told you this wasn't going to be graceful. If I can get this out far enough, there's a little notch on the side of the firing pin. That's where the dime fits in. So after that, I'm just going to take this, and this threads right out. The one chemical I didn't mention when I was talking about equipment you need is this Hornady one-shot sonic cleaning solution. And this is meant just for gun parts, and I was going to mention that specifically because you do not want to use the brass cleaning solution in your ultrasonic cleaner with gun parts. I actually tried that brass cleaning solution on some dies, and I completely wrecked them. And I actually put my bolt housing and everything in there to give it a really good cleaning. It does work excellent. I'm a big ultrasonic cleaner fan. I'll also put my muzzle brakes in there, because I've found that's one of the only ways to get the muzzle brakes nice and clear. I'm just going to start at the muzzle end and work my way down. So I'm using Hops number 9 for anything outside of the bore. It's a pretty good gun cleaner just to get a majority of the gunk off. This is where the toothbrush comes in really handy. And you want to get your crown, which is this recessed part in the barrel right near where the bullet comes out, nice and clean. Around the crown it has a real tendency for carbon to build up. And if you can look online, Google it, and actually watch a bullet come out of the barrel in slow motion, you'll see as the bullet comes out, there's jets of gas that go all around it. And when that happens, not only does it build up a whole bunch of carbon here, but it can make the jets of gas come out unevenly, and then so that'll throw wobble into your bullet. So that is the same reason that you never want to push a brush back through the bore this way, is you don't want to round out that sharp edge on the crown. And so I got my bore guide in right now, and now I'm just going to run a patch through. So here's the jag. That's what it looks like. See if I can get that in focus there. And when you put a patch on, the jagged end punches right through the center of it. Not all jags are created equal as well. Some of the lower end kits you can get, they come in plastic, and I found that the plastic ones just do not last. This is the one I got. Tipton's the brand. There's more brands out there. This comes in a full set with a variety of different calibers, so you can clean everything with the one set. But I believe you can buy these brass jags individually. And so there's what it looks like when it came out. Just got a fair bit of carbon out of there. I don't see a whole lot of blue or purples, which indicates copper. I use blue towels, so it's pretty tough to see, but this is what came out of the barrel as it dripped down. I had the barrel pointing muzzle down, sitting on the ground. This was on the floor. So it's tough to see with this blue rag, but there is some purples around the edge, so it did pull out some copper. So I'm just gonna run another patch through and get rid of that majority of the gunk in there, what's left over after the foaming agent did its thing. Already there's not a whole ton of carbon coming out. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the brush now, and I'm just going to run I'm going to run some hops number 9 through this to see what I get out. So I just pour the hops in the cap that it comes with. It may not be the cleanliest way of doing it, but it works. So I'm going to wrap it around. You'll find it's going to be fairly tight doing it this way. You got to push a little bit to get it going, but it works well. And the great thing about doing it this way is the brush really pushes into the grooves of the rifling, so you get you get right in there. And as you'll notice, every time I do this, I'm going to unthread this brush, because again, I don't want to pull the brush back down through the barrel and round out my crown. If you ever lose an accuracy and you take your rifle to your gunsmith and complain about losing accuracy, a lot of times that's what they'll do, is they'll remachine the crown to make sure it's nice and sharp edges. Again, just so that whole process where the exhaust gases come out unevenly, it can really affect your accuracy. So that's why we're doing it this way, so we can get some more life out of our barrel without having to take it to the gunsmith. Okay, so I'm just going to continue doing this. After I get a bunch of goop out of the grooves, I'm going to run this brush through on its own, just to loosen up anything else that's in there, and then run some more cleaning patches through to make sure all the junk is out of there. And at the very end, I run a patch through on this wire brush with some oil to lubricate it. But oil, you have to be very careful of. You want to get all of the oil out of your barrel. Because if you were to look at your barrel with a magnifying glass, what you'll see is all these little checkered heat cracks from the firing process. And so what you do not want to do is fill those little cracks with oil, or anything for that matter, and then fire your gun, because you're basically going to be fracking your barrel. And it's going to cause those little cracks to become into big cracks, and again, you're going to reduce the life on your barrel. So before you fire it, you want to make sure it is bone dry. I got this tool out of an old junky SKS cleaning kit, actually, and it's one of the cleaning tools I use the most. So I use it just for getting in nooks and crannies and ridges. So I'm just going to go all around the edges here. So that's all the rust and junk I pulled off of the crown. And then I'll just use my fingers to go all around the threads at the end of the barrel. As you can see, I obviously got into some moisture this year because that's all rust. This is where this tool comes in. So once again, I'm going to take a good sized patch. I'm going to fold it over itself a few times, couple times. Run it through here. And this is what I'm going to use for cleaning most of my chamber out. This is going to get everything except for the recoil lug, or the lug recesses. So here's the cap where I put the cleaning solution in. Okay, and I don't want it dripping. I don't want it completely soaked, as I don't want it dripping down into the trigger mechanism or anything. And I'm going to run this all along the bolt guides into the chamber. And we'll just let that sit for a couple minutes and let it do its work. You can see how much gunk was in there that came out, so it was pretty dirty. Okay, so it sat for a couple minutes. Now I got a new clean patch on the end of my tool here. And I'm going to go in and clean all the bolt guides out in the chamber. This is where I'm going to try some of this new oil. And I'm just going to put it on our rag fairly liberally. I just want to kind of neutralize some of the hops number 9. Make sure there's no cleaning detergent left in here. Now I'll put a dry patch on, and we're going to get rid of all the oil, all the excess oil. So there's 2 shotgun patches stacked on top of one another. I'm just going to roll them up and put it on this tool. And this is about the only way I've found to get in really well to your lug recesses in your receiver. Some parts of the lug recesses you can't even see even if you put a bore light in there. So they're going to go in and twist around inside the recesses. If there's any debris or evergreen needles or carbon, it's going to pull it out. And we definitely pulled some out. So before we move back over to our bolt, this is that lens cleaning solution I mentioned earlier. So we're going to go ahead and give our lenses a squirt. And this is a new cleaning cloth that I got this year. And I store it in a Ziploc bag to make sure there's no chance of any of the gun cleaning chemicals getting on here, which eventually would get on your lens and wreck your scope. So I'll give those a good wipe. Okay, so we're over here at the ultrasonic cleaner. I'll pull this out of the basket. So we put our bolt, our full complete bolt, in the ultrasonic cleaner, and you can't really see much with the camera, so I won't bother tilting the camera into it, but it came out super clean. And even if you have some residue left on the bolt or any of the firing pin after you pull it out of here, it's knocked loose. The ultrasonic cleaner does a great job of locking everything, or knocking everything super loose, getting all that grime and grit off. The other great thing about it is it cleans everything inside your bolt housing. If you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, it's not a big deal. Use the same tool that I used for cleaning the receiver out. But it's sometimes a pain in the butt. Sometimes you'll put the cleaning rod in there, and you'll lose your patch. But doing it this way is just great. Again, if you don't have another ultrasonic cleaner, as far as the bolt face, what you got to really watch out for here is brass buildup from your brass shell casings. And after a good season of use, or even a really busy week if you're out at the range lots, you'll notice you'll get brass buildup here, and that's just from firing it, and it kind of leaves a residue on the back of it. And it'll actually throw things off. It can change your head spacing slightly. And once again, consistency is key. You always want to keep that nice and clean so your head space stays the same. Once I'm done this, I am going to oil everything just to make double sure that there's no rust here after. I'm just going to put a light coat of oil all over the firing pin just to prevent corrosion. And you can do that inside of the housing as well. From this point, it's fairly straightforward. With that diamond, you can just put this in and twist it into position. You'll see there's a little recess there where the firing pin, that housing goes, so that's what that's going to rest into that little notch there. So once again, we're going to be using our shoes. It's really high tech.
Hey.
Lift it forward, away goes the dime, and your bolt's put back together. So I'm going to take our new Arctic oil here, just put a couple drips in. And the other place if I over oil anywhere, it's right on the back side of these lugs here where the most friction is during the whole firing process. A test function of it. Make sure it doesn't stay down. Make sure the safety works. And the only thing I do here is I just put a little bit of oil on the threads, because as you saw earlier, you can get corrosion there. Well, that's the whole process, guys. Hopefully you got something out of it. If there's any comments or suggestions, or if you guys have any ideas of cleaning your rifle, something nobody's seen before, shoot me an email, let me know. I always like to learn new stuff. Until next time.